All righty. Hey, welcome everybody. I hope you like the new look, the new format. Welcome Dennis. Welcome Dave, and of course, welcome Mary Beth to Sci-Fi Distilled. It is 7 o'clock,
Hello.
and we are doing the much requested Highlander, 1986, the original, not the second one, but the original Highlander. But before we get into that, I know Mary Beth, we have some news.
We have news this evening, and I always welcome comments from the Peanut Gallery. I'm noticing that we're up and running on Facebook. I'm not seeing us on. Yes, there we are on YouTube. We're simulcasting, and apparently we have the capability to simulcast on Twitter too if we wanted to. In the news this evening, I've got Witcher Season 3. Which, interestingly, Witcher Season 3, that's next summer, that made me think of Henry Cavill, and the reason I'm thinking of Henry Cavill is Highlander is supposed to be getting a reboot, starring none other than Henry Cavill. We'll see what happens with that. In other news, Star Trek Prodigy is back October 27, and in other Trek news, Variety has informed us that a fourth Kelvin timeline Star Trek movie has been removed from the Paramount calendar. So there will be no fourth JJ Trek. It has been removed from the film slate. I have no idea why. There's no other information. We don't know what's going on, but no more JJ Trek. In other Star Trek news, George Takei. George Takei has been cast in Netflix's live action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Don't confuse
Avatar.
Cameron's Avatar with
all people, aliens.
They both have to do with nature, but they're not
very different. Very different.
Very
Will
different.
George be painting the arrow in his head?
I don't know. He's playing Ko, the face.
He has been doing a lot of voiceover work.
He's been doing a lot of voiceover work. This is live action, but this is voiceover work. He did recently do voiceover work for Resident Alien, which was hilarious.
The gray alien. Which is really funny.
And I know in this movie is Clancy Brown, and he does a ton of awesome voice work, including SpongeBob and Star Wars, Clone Wars, and all that good stuff. So
let me jump in. What I want to do is have somebody recut Highlander the movie with Clancy Brown doing the Mr. Krabs voice all the way through. 100% hit. Definitely.
I wonder if we could
it's pretty close, really, when you think about it.
We probably could digitally recreate it. And the reason why was my very next news piece. Everybody, get ready to cry. James Earl Jones has officially retired from doing Darth Vader. Vader's voice will be digitally recreating using a voice library of James Earl Jones. So I'm kind of sad, but I'm also kind of happy that he'll live on in perpetuity, since we can create this. But now that we're talking about it, yeah, I bet they could take Clancy's voice and and completely do Highlander as not SpongeBob. What was his character's name? The Crab.
Connor, me boy.
Krabs, yes. It was Mr. Krabs, yes.
Mr. Krabs. Oh, man. No. Moving on with the news. Ryan Reynolds broke the internet last Tuesday, announcing Deadpool 3. Why? Special guest Hugh Jackman is back to snicked one more time as Wolverine. The fans went wild. It's going to be September 6th, 2024. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be awesome, but I love Deadpool anyway. Gentle viewer, Hocus Pocus 2 is streaming now on Disney Plus. Did we really need a Hocus Pocus 2?
Did we need a Hocus Pocus 1?
Did we need Hocus Pocus 1? I watched it, so you didn't have to. And here's my review. You don't have to. Go ahead and skip it. We have a Mando trailer. We have a new Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer that has dropped. It seems to confirm Shuri in the suit.
Yes, what do you think? I think you're right about 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Shuri. And then in my last piece of news, or two pieces of news here, non-sci-fi news. We know that Artemis was scrubbed due to Hurricane Ian, but that's okay. We all got to watch the DART mission, where we, I guess, just lobbed.
Yeah, that was really cool. If you didn't watch it live, I don't know why it was really cool to watch live.
It was cool
just to watch that the asteroid come closer. Boom, boom, boom. Loss of signal. It wasn't like a smooth. It was like images, still images.
Because it was smooth for a while, but then it just got to be picture.
Yeah, it was probably because of the speed.
It was like
But they said it went.
15,000 kilometers per hour. Or
It
something.
traveled like the last 6 miles in like a second or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, but it was cool. Like that was the most exciting thing. Like nothing
Yeah,
happened
I
to
don't know
the
why. It
asteroid.
was very cool to think that they did that, and it's kind of neat that I think it's really cool that I didn't even realize they were working on this. You know, that they were trying to see
No, me neither.
if they could move something. So kind of good news, I guess.
Kind of good
on NASA.
I thought it was cool. I'm glad we did it. Artemis's next launch window, I believe, is like in November, like right before Shatner.
Yeah, so it'll be a while.
And I know they just launched SpaceX. They sent 3 guys up today in
Yep.
SpaceX. So
Yep.
that happened just this afternoon. And finally, my last piece of news: tossed salads and scrambled eggs for everyone. A Frasier sequel has been greenlit at Paramount, but it probably will not.
Is that sci-fi news?
It's not. I just said non-sci-fi news. Well, it's science. I guess the Artemis was sciencey, but I love Frasier, and but it won't have Niles, and I love Niles.
Yes, of course. So we've got the next season of The Crown coming out too, with Dolores Umbridge as the queen.
That's true. Yes. Oh God, she's awesome. She's excellent in everything she does. I hated her as Dolores Umbridge. I hated her. What's her real name?
Imelda Staunton.
Imelda. Yes, Imelda. Yes. Oh, she's so good. And that's
that
all
was her
news.
character.
She grabbed the role and doesn't let go. She just goes.
That was the whole point. It's a good actress. It's just like Parker Posey as Dr. Smith on.
Yes, you hated her.
Oh yeah,
you absolutely hated her.
Yep.
So
yeah,
really good.
So that's all the news I have. Rizzo, do you have a beverage for us? And Rizzo, do you?
Well,
have
before we get to the beverage,
for us?
we have another special announcement, and we now have a new graphic. It's not a replacement for our current logo, but it's another alternate graphic that you can buy, and it was made by Jeff Rubel. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, and I really appreciate. First of all, so here it is. Officially, it is now. We have the Sci-Fi Distillery Space Station, and you can go on our website, and I got it. There's actually 50% off starting today, and I think it's good through the weekend. So, and remember, you guys can customize this. You can add other words and texts around this if you want. So, I think he did a phenomenal job. It's really awesome. It's got all kinds of spaceships. You can sit there and stare at it and find all the spaceships. Some of them are very unique and different, and he threw them in there that I wouldn't even have thought to put in there, but it's great. And thank you, Jeff, so much. And of course, Jeff, we're going to send you a sweatshirt with this on it as a thank you for doing that. Anyway, let me get rid of that.
There's the
move that, and we do have a drink.
So go buy our sweatshirts. Okay, anyway.
So here's the drink. It's called the Highlander. Why not? Pretty easy. Scotch whiskey. You gotta have Scotch. I mean, I had to find something. If it's Highlander, it had to be Scotch, right? I mean, and then we have some Dom Benedictine, and of course, just a dash of bitters. Pretty simple. I don't know what it tastes like, but hey, give it a shot. See what it tastes like.
It's appropriate.
I don't know. Maybe
it's either that or Scotch. So yeah,
probably better than the movie.
The movie was okay. The movie was
Seems
okay.
like a Scotch man.
I watched the movie. I was like, whatever. No, I watched when I liked it. I watched the movie again like 10 years ago, and I was like, And then I watched it again for this, and I liked it again.
I watched it for the first time in a long time as well, and it's of the 80s, and it screams 80s, but it's still got that fun.
It is of the 80s. Yes.
Yeah, it's I watched this the other day with made my poor wife watch it with me because there was just nothing else on really, and I hadn't seen this probably in over 30 years. It has to be at least. And I remember when I saw it in the theater in '86, I liked it, and then I'm watching it now, and I'm like, what was so great about this movie? I just didn't remember. I'm like, it lost its luster for me. I don't know why. I think maybe because we're so used to modern movies with, action that is, sword fights that are so fluid and with wire effects and all these other things. And these just seem so much like reminded me of Obi-Wan and Darth and Vader from the first movie, kind of hacking at each other. Yeah, it just felt like it could have been tightened up. And I felt like the sound editing was really bizarre on it. Like the way they didn't do sweetening after the fact. Like they definitely did their audio tracks in a studio, but then like they didn't sweeten it properly. So I don't know. I just noticed like sometimes they would talk and it was clearly not them in it didn't sound right. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, the ADR,
yeah,
right, yeah.
it sounded like it was dubbed in, you know, and
Yeah.
it's so weird things like that. But it was very 80s. The whole movie just made me feel like I
Very,
was
very
in the
80s.
80s again.
Very
Well,
much
there's
the
moments
vibe.
of greatness in there, though. Various things, but one of the things that jumped out at me right off the bat, first scene when they're in the wrestling, wrestling match, they have this fluid pan across the entire stadium. And I was thinking to myself when I was watching that, today that wouldn't be a big shot. You do it with a drone. How did they film this?
I saw this behind the scenes explains
Oh.
how they did it. It's that same camera they use over football stadiums.
Oh, so it was a wire mounted camera.
It was a wire mounted camera, and you can see it in one of the shots. There's one of the shots of the wrestlers looking a little bit up at them, and you can see the camera.
Oh, okay.
Because they were going with like several cameras at once for that scene.
That was nostalgic for me because that reminded me of my grandfather. He used to always watch that kind of wrestling. He'd always sit there and he's like, you know, remember they used to have midget wrestling, and they used to think that was hysterical. You know, I remember it just reminded me. It wasn't like the wrestling that we know today where it's more flamboyant. It was a little bit in this movie, but it was more raw, I think.
That scene actually was it was originally scripted to be the NHL. And the idea was that the hockey players would get in a fight and there'd be blood, and the blood would trigger Connor to have this flashback to some other fight that he had, you know, back in days of yore. But the NHL declined to participate because they didn't want to be seen as violent.
Yeah, well, it's the old joke. I went to the fights and a hockey game broke out.
I went to the fight.
Yeah.
Dennis,
you've been awfully quiet.
Well, I've just been like waiting for my, a time to jump in. A lot of people like feel that the Highlander franchise is silly. People going around and, chopping people's heads off, to win the prize. But for myself, it's always been about, the human condition up against immortality. There's the scene where Connor goes into the church and lights a candle, and says, for my Bonnie Heather. How do you, stay in love with somebody for 400 years? And how do you stay with someone that time, until they die? Like Sean Connery's character says, he'd been alive 2,540 years thereabouts, and he'd only been married, 3 times. So how do you pull yourself out and not be human and say, I'm not going to fall in love with someone? Or, when you find that special someone, how do you fess up and say, hey, I'm an immortal? 2, there's this crazy game we play where we go around and, behead each other. And then, how do you say goodbye to them, when they reach the, the end of their lives? So, and that's where I think Highlander, did its best work across the franchise. I know we're here talking about this movie, but I mean, they always talked about revenge, jealousy, friendship, and how a character would change over hundreds, if not thousands of years. Like, what was Sean Connery's character like when he was in Egypt? Like, how vicious was he? How did they treat death and life and that? And then to come forward, all those many years.
I have questions.
and evolve through that. But go ahead. But you're right, Mike. It was, clunky, but it was,
it was a product of its era. I'm not picking on it too hard. I just don't think it holds up as well as some other films of the same era. I think I'd mentioned to Mary Beth prior to this one, because we just did RoboCop. I thought RoboCop, which came out around the same time within a few years, what holds up better, even though it's still very 80s. And then you got films that came out right again in that late 80s, like The Hunt for Red October, which holds up phenomenally well today. So that's what I'm just saying. I think this was. I don't think this was a high budget film. I think this was just a sci-fi flick to get something out there, and it became more of a cult classic than I think they intended it to.
2 points. First, the guy who wrote it as a film project.
Yes, I was going to say that. Yes.
And it just touched something where he's like, I think he was trying to riff on The Duelist, which was an earlier film by two guys who had, kept a duel going for a couple of decades. He's like, well, what if you were immortal and you keep it going like forever, And then he also had this vision of where he was like, I think looking at he had visited the Tower of London, and he was like, what if this was all my stuff, and I had lived through all this stuff, and that dropped right into the movie, and that was one of the things that always stuck with me, was that he had been living in New York City since, before there was a New York City, essentially, and he was like an old timer that had just accumulated all of this stuff, and there it was, just spread out in this house. That's how I would live if I had that much time, and
Mm-hmm.
So that was totally fascinating.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, the other thing is that one part really holds up well: the music.
Yes.
The Queen soundtrack blew my mind because I forgot it was there. And Brian May, astrophysicist Brian May, who is our Buckaroo Banzai, he wrote Who Wants to Live Forever after seeing like an early cut of the film.
The Heather scene, yes.
It's like brilliant.
Yes, they were only going to do one song, but I don't know if they saw dailies or a rough cut. I don't know what they saw. They fell in love with it.
Yes.
And they ended up writing like basically the whole soundtrack. I mean,
and that song hits you in the feelies every time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
They saw it. I can agree with John Haig, who said it holds up far beyond the 80s. I agree with Dennis. There's themes in here. Like, it's really rough and clunky on the outside, but there are themes in here. And when you really start unpacking it and looking at it, like I was watching all this behind the scenes stuff, and wow, the director worked really, really hard on his transitions, and some of them are very interesting. The set guys, wow, the set guys worked hard. That his cool apartment where he took the elevator up and then took the stairs back down, and he had that circular room. They built all of that. Like, they made all of that. The ending at the Silver Cup, the big fight at the Silver Cup, the shots of him and Clancy Brown dueling at the very, very, very end where he finally kills Clancy Brown. Gorgeous shots of them like silhouetted against those windows.
Yeah.
Like, they did some great, great stuff. Some of it was a little heavy-handed. Some of it was kind of clunky, but there's some, like you said earlier, Dave, there's these little nuggets of gold in this thing. And if you can be patient enough to get past the
best line is when Clancy quotes
it's better to burn out.
I got something to say. Fade away, from Def Leppard. That was the best line. I was like, because when he said it,
do to Mr. Krabs voice, it's better to burn out than fade away.
But when he said it, it didn't trigger right away. I'm like, that's from a song. Wait a minute, I know that. That's from a song.
Clancy, and that was in the church.
Highlander.
That was in the church, and that was basically his only big scene where he had a lot to do. Like, he had a couple of little things, but that was his scene. And I was looking at that, and I was just like, damn, he killed it. He killed it. He was amazing. I saw him in an interview. He's like, they never told me no. I wasn't confined by the script. I did whatever I wanted. The director he couldn't be bothered to direct me. That's basically what he said. They just turned him. It was like, release the Kraken. They just turned Clancy Brown loose, and he just did whatever he wanted.
I mean, and
that's always good advice.
He's proven himself, over the years. I mean, he was just a very early film for him. But I mean, when you look at his IMDb, list.
You got John Haig. Halloween.
The guy, I mean, from Shawshank Redemption to Star Trek.
Sergeant Zim and
yes,
Troopers, Star
Trek.
Yeah, he's in Starship Troopers. Yeah,
Starship Troopers.
I loved him.
I mean, you gotta love him because he's in so many things, and just the voiceover work alone. And he just, to me, he's like the most successful, with the exception of Connery. He's the most successful, certainly, actor.
Out of this thing. Yeah,
and I almost felt like Connery was stuck in just for name recognition.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was so short. He was he probably had like.
Yeah, but he killed it. He was Sean Connery.
I mean, you love Connery. Connery's the only actor that can pull off any nationality with a Scottish accent.
He was Ramius.
I mean, which
Captain
kind of cracked me
Ramius.
up. The man he was supposed to be. Now they called the Spaniard,
One
but he
king
said,
only,
"I'm
please."
Egyptian." He's awfully
Yeah, he's the
white.
Egyptian Ramirez. His last
awfully
name is Ramirez, but he was
Egyptian.
Egyptian.
Egyptians
And he was
kinda
just
have a
like
little-
the Scarlet Pimpernel.
But that was so 80s. Again, you wouldn't actually think of putting somebody of color as an Egyptian.
Hey, I wanted to talk. So I want to talk about Christopher Lambert, but I want to talk about Sean. This was the first of Sean's movies where he played like the mentor, like the Obi-Wan character.
Yeah, when he moved off
the
the
mentor,
Zardoz stage.
and then he did a bunch more after this where he was the mentor. But Christopher Lambert. So I'm watching Clancy Brown, and I'm watching Christopher Lambert, and I'm just like, I don't know, Christopher Lambert. He wasn't that strong. And then I go and look this guy up. Oh my God, he didn't speak English before. Like he's French.
No,
he's done a ton of stuff in Europe.
Yeah,
And he's basically blind. So
Yeah,
unless
he's
he has
basically
glasses
blind.
on, he can't see.
So he had to learn English. He'd only done Tarzan, which Tarzan doesn't speak, so it worked perfectly, right? And he looked good for Tarzan. I'll give him that. He had to learn English. He clearly still has a very much French accent. I think they tried to get him to have a Scottish accent, but
that was the
has
thing.
a very French accent.
Well, they worked with him, I guess, to have a non-specific foreign.
Yeah,
accent.
but if you had lived
But I'm
400
like,
years and
clearly,
lived
if
all
he's
over the
supposed to
world,
Scottish,
maybe your
he should
accent would be
have had-
weird
He should have had a very heavy Scottish brogue.
Yeah.
You know,
He did at the beginning of the movie though, like when he was in, when he was in Glenfinnan there, he did have a somewhat decent Scottish accent.
A little bit.
But then, as you guys were saying, as he lived time, a few hundred years, that's why, his voice went, kind of a, like Mary Beth says, a nondescript, sort of accent there.
I'm gonna take my hat off to him.
well, and I would, Dennis, I think that's probably even a real thing that if because I think I noticed that like when people move around the country and there's different dialects, whether there's Southern accents and stuff like that, that you tend to start picking up where you hear all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I think it probably, you're right. I think accents probably would kind of morph into other sounding dialects or whatever. So I think that's probably a realistic assumption. You figure he's hundreds of years old. I thought it was interesting too that there was some of them were friends, yet they knew in the end they had to kill. They might have.
Why does Ramirez choose to train him? Wouldn't he just pick him off as an easy target? Like,
well, because he didn't want Clancy to become the one. So I think that's what he was hoping that if more people, anybody but him kind of thing.
My impression, am I wrong? My impression was at the end after Lambert killed Clancy, or after Connor killed the Kurgan, that it wasn't over. That wasn't the end blow. There's still more out there to do.
No. In Highlander 1, that was supposed to be the end.
They were the only
that was
two.
the end. He won the prize, which was he was at one with everyone, and he could have then helped people by building
will be drawn to a place. Like we'll all be drawn. So the place we were drawn to was the Silver Cup. I'm confused right now.
But that's what happened in the first movie. Like there was very few immortals left. And that's why they got drawn to, New York City. And back to why Sean Connery, mentored Connor it was still that classic good against evil. Like Connor was a good immortal where, Kurgan wasn't. So if he'd have won the prize, the thing is it would have plunged the world into darkness, right? Because he would have used the prize for evil, not for good.
Okay, got it.
Now, whereas Connor,
he didn't want Clancy to win.
But as far as Sean Connery goes, there's a rumor. I'm not sure if it's a rumor or fact, but William Shatner approached him to be in Star Trek V, and he didn't want to be, another mentor anymore. But the god of Shakari in Star Trek V was a riff on Sean Connery. That was their way of showing Sean Connery, their middle finger, right? So they cast Lawrence Luckinbill instead of Sean Connery. They wanted him to play that part, but he felt he'd had enough of that. But back to Star Trek, Gregory Wyden that created it. He started in 1981 in a film school, and he was in Scotland, and he saw, the suit of armor.
Well,
and
yeah,
he
that's what Dave
wondered,
was just saying.
Yeah, what if they're still alive? But I couldn't find it, but I seem to recall thinking somewhere that he was a Star Trek fan, and he got some of its inspiration from that character Flint in the third season of Star Trek, who was, I was a soldier, I fell in battle, I died, and then I came back to life. That's what happened to Connor in the
Requiem
beginning.
for Methuselah is
In the
the-
beginning, yeah.
Yeah, I am
in
not
the beginning of in
placing
the beginning
that.
of Highlander. But I think you mentioned Ryan Reynolds earlier, Mary Beth.
I did.
He
Deadpool
supposedly was attached to the Highlander reboot, right?
Yes, that's
The-
true. He
the
may be
Highlander
attached to the
reboot
Highlander reboot.
Has been like 10 years, and there's been various people attached to it. And Henry Cavill just put out a random tweet, and as I recall, everybody got really mad at him, like the producers and everything, because they're going, well, we're just in talks. Like,
Yeah.
there's nowhere.
I don't know how far the
close to
talks
that.
are. They've got right now. The rumors are Henry Cavill as Connor, Dave Bautista as the Kurgan, which could be interesting, and it'll be directed by the guy that does John Wick. Which there's a John Wick trailer that just dropped.
I think the movie is ripe for actually a reboot. I think with modern
Done carefully
techniques and done carefully and respecting the original story. I think it could be a very good film. I'm usually not big on reboots, but I think this one probably might work.
This
And
one
I'd
could
be
work, but yeah, if
really
they clean
excited
up some things, yeah.
to see Adrian Paul play Ramirez. Adrian Paul played Duncan MacLeod in the TV show
the
from
TV show.
92 to 98.
Mhm.
And he really resembles like Sean Connery. So I think that would be a good bone to throw Adrian Paul, because Highlander still has legs, really, because of the television show. They expanded on that game and spread it out, across those 6 seasons, kind of thing. So that would be, for me, exciting to see.
Well, is there a new story to tell? Going back to our talk about rebooting and not rebooting, what are you going to say that you didn't say across those 6 seasons,
Yeah, good
or
point.
in Highlander 1 or in Highlander 2 about the
But I
ozone
think-
layer?
Yeah, I think Highlander 1 could do well with a reboot. It's time. Yeah, Chris LaRoche, I agree. Adrian Paul has to be in there somewhere. I think it would do well. I think it would do fine. It would bring it to a whole new generation. Because I know there's probably kids who know what the TV show is, but they never saw that. The movie's 1986. That's old.
Well, I
think
actually
it-
had to look up because when we were watching it, I was seeing some shots that seemed to be very similar to shots of like Arnold in the Terminator. I'm like, which one came first? Was it this or that? The
This
Terminator came first, and I think they were
Oh, was he
riffing on
talking
that
to
with
Terminator?
the Kurgan, with his jacket and such. A lot of that framing was, the blocking of those shots were very similar.
Yeah. They worked real hard. Some of the transitions, like I mentioned, the Mona Lisa face transition, the transition them up to this one of the parking garage transition that goes up into the ceiling of the parking garage, and then the floor just becomes the dark sweep, and then you're in your new scene. Because they had to be careful about their transitions going from modern day New York to old Scotland.
Sure.
Otherwise, people would be completely confused. And they worked really hard. Some of them might have fell flat, but at least they were thinking about it, and they knew they had to approach it carefully so the story would make sense. Among the deleted stuff, and some stuff did get deleted that is now, unfortunately, sadly, gone forever because it was lost in a warehouse fire. There were scenes of the Kurgan killing young doll Kim, which was not a Korean Highlander, not a Highlander, a Korean immortal. And there were scenes that showed the backstory of Connor and Rachel. Rachel was his secretary at the antique shop, and it was clear. It was so obvious. There's something going on with those two. But you never find out. They cut the scene that explained how they met.
They took that backstory with Rachel and expanded on it in Highlander Endgame. But Rachel was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, they it's in the movie.
And Connor adopted her. And
yeah, it's in the movie that he rescued her from a Nazi.
Yeah.
What? Where?
I don't remember that in the movie.
It's in the film version I watched. Maybe it's a director's cut.
They expanded on it in
in
Endgame.
Clearly it's 1940s. It's during the Second World War. He's in Europe somewhere, and he's running from the Nazis, and he ends up in this building, and he ends up saving this little girl who says that everybody's dead, and this Gestapo officer's ready. He's going to kill them, and of course he shoots Connor. Connor can't die, and then Connor just picks the gun up and kills the Nazi guy, and he says, and basically says, "I'm going to take care of you," and that's her.
You might be conflating from a different movie then.
No, I only watched this one movie.
Both John Haig and Chris LaRoche are both saying, yeah, it's in the. So I have deleted scenes, Gone Forever, Lost in the Warehouse Fire, includes the Kurgan's fight scene.
They're saying it's in the director's cut.
Yeah,
okay.
It deleted where Connor meets Thomas Jefferson. We didn't need that. And then how he met Rachel. And the director was pissed that they took it out of the movie because it would have explained their relationship. I know that scene was not.
That'll show you that how long it was, because I didn't remember. I just assumed it was there originally. I didn't know. I didn't know I was watching the director
or something.
It
was not in the theatrical release, and the director was annoyed because he's like, well, now they're going to be confused with Rachel.
Yeah, it was whatever Prime Video has. It's you can watch it on Prime.
Yeah, John Haig. There was more to the duel. Yeah, and the whole Young Doll Kim scenes were cool because he fought with two whatever they're called that he was using, and that was unique and different and hadn't been seen before.
Oh, like Sai or something.
Yeah, those like the little, I call them the fork swords.
Yeah, the little fork swords. So there's all of that. Yeah, but yeah,
we haven't really talked about the rest of the cast, and one of them particularly, which was Roxanne Hart, who was the love interest, in the modern love interest, I should say. But if you look at her, she's another one that has a very long list and still working, I think, right up till today.
Yeah, she's
busy. And she's been in so many. She's one of those actors you're like, I've seen her before.
Yeah,
I know her,
it,
but you don't know who she is. So I just wanted, but the rest of the cast, of course, Clancy Brown we talked about, and of course, he's our biggest Star Trek connection, I think. As far as
he is my only road. That and the Highlander fans, Star Trek and Highlander fans have in the fan world have created the USS Highlander. I used to know the NC number as a tribute. Not too many roads. There a couple guys that worked on the film, like early Star Trek films and this, but not too much else going on.
So remind me where Clancy comes in.
Clancy was on Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah,
Enterprise. Okay. He was also in The Crown as Lyndon Johnson.
Like you said, the man is prolific. He's been in tons of stuff. I mean, he goes his sci-fi. He has a ton in just sci-fi alone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He was on.
He's done a ton of voice acting too.
Tons of voice acting. Wizards. I mean, Rick and Morty. He's done. SpongeBob, of course, we've talked about. The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
he was just in the last Dexter season. Dexter New Blood.
What's that, Dennis?
Dexter New Blood. He was one of the bad guys in the reboot of Dexter.
Yeah,
they
did
10
more. Carnival.
If
any of you guys remember Carnival on HBO, that was one of those creepy ones.
Yep. Carnival. Yep. Carnival. Whatever the hell you want to pronounce it. Carnival.
He's around, man. I love him. I have loved him since Buckaroo Banzai. But I loved him in Buckaroo Banzai. And then I was disappointed every single time. Every time he played a bad guy, I was like,
Warcraft.
I only like when he plays good guys.
And I'm not. These are just his. I'm just picking out his Lego Batman. Hey,
his voice. He's in everything. He has a great deep voice. Yeah. He's another one that I'm hoping they make a voice library of. Him, George Takei has a beautiful voice. James Earl Jones, of course, and whoever else there is resonating. You got to make
Star Wars. He's Clone Wars too. Yeah, I didn't realize that. You don't even realize that it's his voice, but he's in like everything.
No, he plays Darth Maul's brother, whose name I can't.
Yeah, Takei is funny because anytime you hear his voice in the cartoon or something,
Oh yeah,
George. I mean, it's just like instantly that's Takei. So it's like he only has like one one thing. He doesn't.
But he
he's
throws
not like
Omai into things. Like
Clancy
even in Resident Alien, he threw Omai in there.
He
It's
did
just
throw an
now.
Omai in there. That was clearly done. I mean, Resident Alien does not take itself too seriously.
No, it doesn't. Its tongue is firmly planted in his cheek.
Yeah, it's a
Getting back to the
great show.
cast.
If anybody hasn't watched it, it's in season 2 now on Sci-Fi Channel. It is Alan Tudyk. How do you pronounce his last name? Tudyk. And it's just, and I thought it was going to get like tired with him, his not really getting Earth stuff, but it's not getting old. It's just, it's still working for me. So I don't go too far.
No,
off.
it doesn't get old.
It just doesn't. His delivery is hysterical.
It's amazing.
Anyway,
But yeah,
so
back to the cast.
back
We
to
had
the cast.
Beatty. What's her last name? Beatty Edney as Heather. She has done a ton of stuff in Europe. We have not seen her too much this side of the pond. And I'm just kind of scrolling through. Everybody else is.
What about that actress that played, her name's Beatty, when they did Highlander Endgame, which was 15 years later, they tried to, they actually successfully brought her back because of how gracefully she aged. They were able to make her still believable as Connor's wife in that film. So it actually added to that story.
The makeup artist for this film really won't get an Academy Award because when they aged her when she died was just
and they had aged people
Spray a little white in her hair.
It looked like a young person with gray hair.
Just gray hair, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they obviously spent the budget on the cast, right? So
Yeah.
The budget went to the
worked on that
sets.
one.
That keep that keep where Ramirez finally gets beheaded on the stairs, like everything collapses but the stairs, and then
Yeah, they keep knocking parts out of the wall, and
they
like
get knocked. They
walls
built
don't work that way.
None of this. This is not modern fantasy movie where everything's CGI and computer generated.
Yeah.
They built that keep and then destroyed that keep. That blows me away. And then when you see where that keep is, like in real life, they had a haul, like it's in the middle of nowhere in Scotland. They had to haul all the building construction stuff up, build the keep,
Yeah.
destroy the keep.
That's a good point for film. Movies prior to the mid to late 90s. You're right. Everything was practical. They had
Practical.
to build it.
And
You
don't
and
want
then
to do
destroy
like
it.
I've been thinking about doing movies like Legend, Labyrinth, Crawl, all of that, just to look at the effects because
Oh, sure.
they didn't have.
Well, Krull was just
It was some heavy lifting. Yeah.
Yeah, Crawl was
Crawl was
had
just
the
a bad
Cyclops.
movie.
You remember?
Cyclops.
Do you
Thanks
remember?
for the
That's
little
where Liam
teasing,
Neeson got his start. Come on, that was like one of Liam Neeson's first. movies.
Oh, is this the movie they were looking at? Mark Singer for this. Did I write this down?
Yeah, they were looking at
Connor.
Mark Singer for instead of Lambert, I think for
Yeah, they were looking.
Yes,
I know who they were looking at. Hang on, I'll look at my notes. And I was thinking, yeah, you know what, Mark Singer, because he would have been either about to do V or fresh off V, and he had done yeah. What did Mark do? Conan? No, not Conan.
Oh, Beastmaster, right?
Beastmaster. Thank you.
Beastmaster,
Thank you.
with
Beastmaster.
Rip
I was
Torn
like, he
as
could have done this.
with Rip Torn as the high priest of Zed, which I find amusing because he later played Zed, the character in the Men in Black film.
Rip Torn's another one of those actors that just whatever you stick him in.
Yeah, he's
He's
awesome. Where did I write my notes on who they wanted? Like, there's a bunch of people they were
Kurt
looking
Russell was one they
Kurt
were
Russell,
looking
the
at.
usual
that's right,
suspects,
yeah.
right? So Mel Gibson, Kurt Russell, Kevin Costner, Patrick Swayze, Sting, Michael Douglas, and for some bizarre reason, not the movie creators, but Hulk Hogan, for some reason, thinks he was up for the part, but the guys who were making the movie were like, no. So I don't know what was really happening.
No, I could see Sting. He'd strip down to his underwear and say, "I will kill him. I will kill him."
No, but the funny thing is, Kurt Russell turned this down, and he ended up doing the same year. He ended up doing Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
So-
that's
and
right.
One would argue that was a smart move.
Yeah, you know what?
And
I love it.
I have to say, I think Big Trouble's a little better movie.
Big Trouble is well, yeah, they're different.
Big
They're
Trouble is a very stylized movie. It's done in that, what was it, like Howard Hawks style with the fast-paced dialogue. It was like a very 1940s.
Yeah, it was. It was, and that's what's his name. That's
Yeah.
John Carpenter.
Mhm.
Yeah. So okay, let's get back to some plot points here because I got more questions now. What if you accidentally get blowed up and your head is separated from your torso? Does that count, or does it have to be by another immortal?
Like a starfish.
No,
you need two of
I
you.
think guillotine, that would be bad for immortal.
I think personally, I don't know for a fact that maybe this was fleshed out in the TV series. I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the TV series.
Because
my thing is,
Kurgan,
probably
he
has to
almost
be
got
another
the
immortal
Kurgan.
that beheads you.
That's why I got my neck armor.
Yeah, you've got your neck.
I thought you were going to make
chastity
maybe
belt
get to the fight, so I dug out my old neck armor.
The Kurgan had a scar the whole rest of the movie, and I was like, well, shouldn't that heal?
Well, that was a good point. I was going to point that out because he had the scar from where Ramirez got him, and then it never didn't that have healed.
Turtleneck.
Shouldn't it have healed? Maybe because it was given to him by an Eternal, or whatever they call themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Kurgan gave Lambert a big belly wound, and that apparently healed. So.
Yeah.
But maybe it has to do with the next.
To take Mary Beth's scenario there, if you lost your head and it wasn't from another sword, your quickening was basically wasted. Nothing happened to it.
No one got nothing. Okay.
Yeah, right. Because the whole idea of the quickening is
you level up
when you beat your opponent, you gain all of his strength and insight and all of that stuff, and it makes you a stronger immortal. So when you take on another one, chances are better that you're going to win.
I did notice it may have been just filmmaking choices, but the immortal deaths earlier in the film were less dramatic than later.
Oh, because they're getting more because they're leveling up. So
you're
of course,
concentrating the power.
That makes sense.
So interestingly enough, the word quickening actually has a real world.
Oh
meaning.
yeah, it is.
I never knew this, but it's basically when a baby in the womb shows the first signs of life.
Oh yeah.
And I did not know that. I just learned that. So I thought that was interesting that they chose that. I mean, maybe because it just sounded kind of neat.
Okay, we've been dancing around this the entire hour. Let's talk about Highlander 2.
I knew.
Let's get into it.
Wait a minute. Let me just.
Ozone layer shield.
I can just remove you, Dave.
Michael Ironside, John C. McGinley. Come on. How can you not like this?
I don't even know. Honestly, I don't even know if I've ever seen
sword fighting on hoverboards. Where are you going to get value for money like that?
It was a finger in the eye of the original movie. So, you saw the end of it, and then you're watching the opening Star Wars thing of Highlander 2, and it basically says, they were all aliens. So everything in Highlander 1, ignore all that. I remember just feeling, what the?
So Highlander 2, the money grab.
Wait,
I don't know. There's some quality in there. I mean, there's the opening scene where he's in the opera, and he's aged, and he's definitely mortal. He's winding down, and then another immortal shows up from Planet X, and he's like, whoa.
So is the thinking that after Lambert kills Clancy there, and he gets he's the one.
Mm-hmm.
Does he? That's the end of his immortality. He just starts.
Yeah, he becomes mortal. He can have kids.
The prize is mortality.
Yeah.
Prize is mortality, but then he said he had
the gift of men, as Tolkien would
read
say.
People's minds, though, or whatever.
Yeah, he still had some other.
I know anybody. They didn't really imply at the end of the film that I was aware of that they said something about. I think that he got him aging and. Did they miss that at the end or something?
Yeah, no, they said he would age. Yeah,
he would age. Yep.
Yeah, I guess I missed that.
But I mean, the gift of mortality, right?
We all have it already. So we were supposed to reflect and be like, oh, none of us will see Heather die and go home and hug our loved ones. That's what was supposed to happen, but somehow.
Well, it's interesting with all the Tolkien stuff coming out now because you have the elves in the various
But then that
juxtaposed to
doesn't
the shoulder
jive with
blades.
that doesn't really jive with what Ramirez was worried about Clancy getting being the one that he would have some kind of world dominating power, that his evil was going to spread across the planet and we'd live in this darkness.
We have
It
mortal,
implies that
evil
there's
mortal
more
people.
to the quickening than just
I can rattle off a list
you
of
be- you
current
become
day
immortal.
evil mortal people.
that doesn't make any sense. I mean, so one guy gets to be mortal and the other guy gets to be all powerful and take over the world.
Like you gain all of the knowledge, all of the experience of the other immortals, and there's like I said earlier, there's noble ones that would use that for good, and then the not so good ones that would use it to take over
To
the
become a
world.
Tyrant. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess.
exactly.
I guess.
Amazing laser can be used for good or evil. Use only for good.
So Dave, I just want to point out this is Chris's opinion on the second movie.
Chris, the chat is freaking out. They're all like, as soon as you said Highlander 2, the chat was like, what?
Well, I'm happy to provoke some controversy.
It was a betrayal. It was a betrayal of that whole concept of it, right?
But Christopher Lambert was down. He was down for like 2 more movies
Well,
and a TV show.
He was down because it was a check.
He was down because there was a paycheck. That's why I
Yeah,
think he was
Christoph
Needed
Lambert
paycheck players.
To
appeared
quote
in
quote
almost-
Winston, if there's a
only
paycheck
one of
in
them-
it, I'll believe
yeah.
anything you like.
he appeared in all of them but the last one, which we don't count that one. And then he was in the pilot episode of Highlander the series. So
Yeah, I
Ooh,
barely
looks like-
remember.
John
I barely
Hagen-
remember that TV
John
show.
Haig is ready to throw fisticuffs with you, Dennis. He says, if that was a betrayal, what was the series?
There you go.
well, the series just expanded on. The best episodes were about somebody was married like 900 years, and they one of them got killed. There was another one where they were friends for almost 1,000 years, and one of the young immortals took his head, so he wanted revenge on it. The supposed oldest immortal, Mythos, which is a great name, by the way, as a myth, as the series went on, we discovered he was one of the 4 horsemen, right? So how do you be part of that and then come forward, 5,000 years and evolve as a person? So, but there were no aliens in Highlander the series, right? They just
The series ignored Highlander 2. That's true.
Oh yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
I think Highlander had, like you said, had more in common with Requiem with Methuselah, that these people were just born under the right conditions cosmically to that they were immortal. Or maybe there was more of a grand plan, a higher power controlling us. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't get Alien from any of that.
I don't know. I still sword fights on hoverboards any day of the week, and neon signs announcing what type of music I'm listening to. I'll take that too.
Oh, is that what they? Oh,
Yeah, there's this big, opera, on the opera house, and
That's
when they
awesome.
brought that opening Chiron up, or I don't even remember any of the movie. Like that was it.
Well,
And it's just all red.
Dennis, instead of
Yeah,
nursing,
really,
nursing
and
this
then was like,
betrayal and
okay.
these hard feelings, you should just
I
bite the
remember.
bullet and watch it again.
I remember Highlander 3 with I can't think of the actor's name. He was hidden away in a cave somewhere.
Oh, Mako,
And-
yes.
Yeah, that was, well, I mean, it was better than Highlander 2, but I mean, I would argue the original Highlander movie and then Endgame are the two best Highlander movies in the in the franchise. So
All right. Well, let's look at a few other little trivial things, and then we'll probably just looking at the time here. So we were talking about how awesome Queen was. They were not the only ones approached. They looked at Sting and Duran Duran and Bowie. but I guess only Queen fell in love with it, which makes sense. They're like rock opera, so and this was kind of operatic in a way, so yeah, that worked.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had that feel to it. It was instead of it
Like
was
dramatic melodrama. I think the word I
Yeah,
meant
it
was
was-
melodrama.
yeah.
Oh, I'm telling you, Who Wants to Live Forever, with the backdrop with Heather and all that, man, in the feelies every time.
Yeah, well, they got the drift of the film. Who
Yeah,
wants
they
to
did. They
live
got
forever?
the drift of the film. Yeah.
Right? So I mean, if that was the elevator pitch to get that movie made, right? You're going up the elevator going, who wants to live forever? You know, the drudgery and pain and violence of being an immortal, right? And there was one line in one of I know we're talking about the movie, but one character in the TV shows becomes immortal. And he says, how can we have room for love in the world when there can be only one? And, you know, and he walked off into the, into the sunset. And I went, that's a great point. Right. So that was, to me, what Highlander, as far as a franchise did best. When people would say, oh, you like Highlander, those are just guys, chopping each other's heads off. It was not what that movie or what that franchise was about. It had very little to do with sword fighting. As cool as it was on hoverboards, Dave.
And it's very cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
Yeah.
The sword fighting, by the way, was all done by Bob Anderson, who is the famed, like, if you're going to do swords in Hollywood, you get Bob. He did Vader. He taught Vader. He did Pirates of the Caribbean, Lord of the Rings, Princess Bride. Like any modern movie that has swordplay, it's Bob Anderson.
Well, I read somewhere that the first fight in the parking garage with all that wonderful 70s Detroit iron
Yeah, I noticed that.
getting abused by the sparklies. The guy, Fazil, I think, or whatever his name was, he was the stunt coordinator.
Oh, was he really?
He was,
cool.
yes.
Good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of stunt coordinators and swordplay, when they got Sean Connery, they're like, hey, you want to brush up? Because he'd done swordplay over the years.
Yeah,
they're like, hey, and he's like, no, I'm good, I'm cool. And no, he wasn't good and he wasn't cool. He ended up getting hurt. Nothing major, but he did end up getting hurt.
So Bill has a question. So if you don't want to live, can you kill yourself?
No, you have to get someone else to do it.
You have to get another immortal to do it.
You'd have to just surrender to another immortal, I think.
No, you can. Back to your
or
quickening.
Just have your head cut off somehow.
Yeah, no, there was like one immortal decapitated himself, but the quickening was wasted. It did not go to another immortal.
No
But
one got it.
The point
Went
is
into a sock.
But he was dead. So.
Yes.
Well, there you go. So, well, it'd be interesting to see if they do remake this movie. I know these always seem to come up. These 80s films stuff, even they just love to remake. If they remake it, I think we need to see more modern Star Wars type sword fights.
I think it would do well with the 10-episode treatment that they're doing with The Mandalorian and 1883 and all that sort of stuff. I think they could tell a great story with that.
Who owns the franchise? I wonder.
The Highlander franchise? Good question. Maybe Paramount, since they're doing the reboot. I don't think it's the original writer or any of those guys.
I don't know who originally did because it wasn't. Was it a major studio that did it, or was one of those ones like Orion or something like that?
It was. I can tell you, it was produced by Thorn EMI. Highlander Productions. Maybe they're their own independent. Thorn EMI.
I was just curious because it kind of is. It kind of does lend itself. Like I said, you're right. You could probably do it as a miniseries rather than a film on a streaming service, and it'd probably sell. I mean, if they can bring Karate Kid back,
well, yeah,
You know,
Mhm.
The budget looks like the budget was 19 million, only grossed 12. So it was technically a failure. But look at how much this failure, multiple movies, multiple TV shows, because there was an animated series too, plus a ton of other peripheral stuff. Like
yeah, it fell
It
into
had
that,
legs.
it fell into that
graphic
cult,
novels
cult
and all that
classic kind of thing, where it became more popular probably after the fact.
I would consider this a cult classic.
And it
Absolutely. I
probably
would
did
consider it.
well in this is a prime movie for VHS rentals at the time. You know, this was one of those ones that you rented and you on a Saturday, Friday night, you had nothing else to do, maybe even during the week, and you say, "Yeah, I'll watch this." See what didn't see it in the theater, but
back to ownership, I think it was the producers, Davis Panzer, that owned the rights to it. Something makes me think they bought the rights to it when it tanked at the box office. Because
John Haig just commented Panzer is dead. So I don't know.
somebody must own it.
but
Somebody
Panzer
must own it,
Davis
but clearly Paramount has
produced all of it.
access to it now.
Anything that had Highlander on it, those two guys.
Well, who produced
Produced by
the
Gene
TV show?
Roddenberry.
Was syndicated, right?
Yeah, the TV show was syndicated. It was made in Vancouver and made in Paris, France. So it was they filmed half the season in Vancouver there and the other half of the season in Paris. So it was more of a worldwide hit than it was a TV show hit in North America. But if you want to watch it, it is on Peacock.
It's
And-
also Prime. Like I said, I watched it on Prime.
And I'd also just know on Wiki, and we know Wiki's not always right, but it says in March 2008, Summit Entertainment announced it had bought the film rights and was going to remake it. And then that's when the John Wick guy said he's going to redo. As of May 2020, the filming remake had not been done, and here we are. September, October. We are now in October of 2022, and it's still just a rumor.
Yeah.
So,
I have to
talking
say,
about John Wick. Talking about John Wick for a second, Dennis, you've watched a lot of Highlander the series. Did they ever have an immortal dog?
No.
That would be interesting.
That would be awesome. Me and my dog could just live forever. That would be so cool.
I think a lot of dog owners would be for that.
A lot of dog owners would
At
be
least,
pro
or at least live as long as humans do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing wrong with dogs. They don't live forever.
Well,
Yeah.
all pets are that way generally. Well, especially like parrots, I guess they live a long time. But
No.
anyway, as far as a reboot film, I don't know how well this would do as a feature film in the theater. I think it would do better on a
Henry's
streaming
a draw.
service.
It depends on the cast.
I think it would be better on a streaming service or as like you said as a limited series. It's just my opinion. I don't know.
Henry Cavill would be amazing.
Henry Cavill would be my pick for Connor right out of current. Certainly he would, and I think we're probably saying that, Mary Beth, because he does so good as The Witcher.
As Witcher,
Yeah.
which
I
I
mean,
really
he's so
enjoyed.
excellent as Witcher. Especially if you play the video games, he really fits that character so well.
But the cool thing about Henry is, I think he'd probably played the games. He'd read the books. He's like ready to go. Like when you hire him for a character, he knows what he's doing. He knows the character inside out and backwards.
Yeah. So yeah. So I think, but you're right. I think that's probably prejudicing our opinion a little bit, but it still doesn't make it wrong. So, hey, it's 8:00, so I don't want to keep everybody later than we have to. Mary
Coming
Beth,
up.
what has Roy got going on?
Roy and Phil, I'll do Roy and Phil. Phil is talking to someone named Izzy Meth. Izzy Meth, that's his real name. And Overforward will be on Captain Phil's Planet tomorrow from 3 to 5. Plus, he'll be previewing music for the Prague Stock Festival happening this weekend. And he's filling in for Chris Laporta from 8 to 10 p.m. But he's preempted on Friday night because the kids are taking over. Yay, kids. Roy has a couple of events coming up. So he's got his show for the next, because he's in Halloween mode, which is cool. This Friday, he's doing Life Force, 1985's Life Force. I am another one. I am not.
This is a great movie because it's so bad.
Is it?
Yeah.
But okay,
And
so
it's
maybe I
got
don't know that one.
hot women naked. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's Barbarella, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Friday,
It's probably way better than
October
Barbarella.
14. Friday, October 14, as we swing into the Halloween season, he's doing The Omen. Now that I will tune in for. The Omen is one of
The dog died.
all-time Halloween favorites.
Well,
So
it's got
good for Roy.
It's got Gregory Peck in there, so
And it's
come on.
got Gregory Peck. What do we have coming up?
So
If
we're
you're
going to start our Halloween month, and we're going to start out with, I believe we decided we were going to do Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. That's kind of a
Ooh.
space horror. Or space
Event Horizon is my Highlander 2. I saw that in the theater. I paid cash money for that. And I'm like, oh, Sam Neill, great. Yeah. What is this?
So it was a finger in your eye then.
You know, it's funny
wasn't
because we're
sci-fi,
trying to
it's
describe.
Look. I'll give Event Horizon another shot if you guys all give Highlander 2 another shot.
Okay, fair deal.
I'll lie and say okay. But no, Event Horizon, yeah, I remember it was okay. It kind of reminds me of when there was what is the book? I just had it in my. It was one of the. Forget it.
The Gateway Saga.
No, it was
Larry Niven, Frederick Pohl. Who was
the
it?
guy that wrote Jurassic Park.
Oh, Michael C.
Michael
Crichton.
Crichton.
Michael Crichton
Sphere?
book. It was one of the Michael Crichton books that he wrote. That
Oh,
they
Sphere?
Sphere. Thank you. And it was a great book. I loved it.
It was.
a book
Yes.
so way before it was ever a film, and I always said this would make such a great movie. This would make such a great movie. And then they made the movie, and it was terrible. And I
You're
think
like me.
it was
I will
partly
watch it for you,
the
so you
casting
don't have
was
to. My
wrong.
review. You
The
don't have
casting
to.
was wrong.
That's your new YouTube channel, Mary Beth.
Our new YouTube channel. We watched it, so you don't have to, and our review is you don't have
Yeah,
to.
we watched it, but you don't have to. Yeah.
You don't have to. You
So,
can skip
so
this
yeah,
one.
read Sphere because it was a great book. Do not watch the film if you haven't. So I think Event Horizon probably falls into that category.
And then
So we're gonna do that after Event Horizon. What do we got?
I've got the Megalodon.
We're gonna do the Meg just
Which
because I
is
think it's a
another
fun
scary
shark
one.
film.
It's like Jaws.
Scary. It's kind of
only
Jaws. It's kind of modern Jaws. It's fun. If you haven't seen the Meg, it's worth watching. Don't take it too seriously, but it has some
What?
merit. It's not
But
Jaws.
everything about that film says take it seriously.
No, it really doesn't.
It's
actually.
right up there with Sharknado. Well, no.
Yeah, it's
right
not
up
quite
there.
as silly as Sharknado, but it's not as it doesn't try to be too serious. But it's I liked it. I don't know. It was
And then
entertaining. It's an
we'll-
entertaining film.
We'll wrap out Halloween month with The Mummy, the classic.
We're gonna do the Mummy.
Which
The
is kind of-
1999 version.
Yes, which we had talked about doing for some reason. Are they releasing another Mummy? Is that why we're doing this? Like there was a
No,
reason. why
who
we're like,
knows?
let's do
They've kind of beaten that franchise to death.
This will be the Brendan Fraser version
This is the original. Well, the original of the modern
of the Brendan.
modern franchise,
Fraser
not
version.
going back to the Universal monsters.
Can you guys do Encino Man? That was a fun movie.
Is it sci-fi?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, was that Brendan?
Is it-
Fraser?
Do you guys have a no
Yeah.
Pauly
Defrosted
Shore
after
rule
having-
here?
A Pauly Shore? No, we don't have a Pauly Shore rule.
That's Bio World.
You're thinking of
Biodome.
was there another one where he was frozen or
No,
something?
I
Or
thought
Yeah,
Pauly
that's
Shore was in
Encino Man.
Encino Man as well.
Yeah, he might
Come
have.
on,
Yeah,
Christopher
Pauly Shore might have
Walken.
been in Encino Man too. Not Encino Man 2, but as well. I mean,
John Haig is pumped. Jason's fracking Statham. Yeah, I like Jason Statham.
yeah. So that's going to be our month, and then what we're going to do is in November we're going to get another panel of people together, and we're going to do 2 shows. The first one is books that should be movies, and the
Your
second one
science
will
fiction
be
book that would make a great movie. Tell us about
books that should not have been movies.
Battlefield Earth.
So you'll save that, Dennis. So those are going to be our two kind of
it.
panel
I
shows.
also have Judge Dredd, Total Recall, and Time
Judge
Bandits
Dredd,
for some reason.
Mine would be Judge Dredd. Well, we could compare and contrast the two films, the Carl Urban one and the
Yeah, we could do some compare and contrast.
because they both have they each have their own unique qualities, we'll say.
If you're
John
going to
Haig,
do
Time
a,
Bandits, that has been on my list to do Time Bandits. Yeah, I'd like to do Time Bandits at some point too. Don't touch it; it's pure evil. Good film of its day. Again, that's an '80s film too, isn't it? I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
if you're going to do a Stallone like future thing, Don't do Judge Dredd. Do
Oh, I know what
Demolition
you're gonna
Man.
say. Demolition Man. I knew you were-
Demolition
Demolition
Man.
Well, that was because you had Wesley Snipes in there, and then you had
Yeah.
this comedian there, Dennis.
Speaking of
It
Wesley
had
Snipes,
so
we
many
need to do
people in there.
Blade.
Yeah, no, definitely, Demolition Man had merit. There's no question about it. It had merit. It was a good film in its own right. Now all restaurants are Taco Bell. Talk about mine. That's like my version of hell. All restaurants are Taco Bell.
But nothing beats a good rat on a stick.
Rat on a stick. No, it was a burger. This is rat.
Oh,
The rat
burger. Okay.
Eats
Rat
it
burger.
Okay, we're past the time. So anyway,
All right,
tune in to Roy on Friday, and the other thing we're thinking, if you guys, we're gonna jump back in time and maybe do the whole Planet of the Apes series. Like,
How would you guys feel about
the
that?
original 5
Like
films,
overview.
all 5 films at once. I don't know what you guys think of
Battle. Escape
that.
from.
The original, Beneath,
I've
Escape.
watched a few of them
All the
recently.
names.
Yeah, they're. You know what? They all, especially the first 2, really do still hold up in my opinion.
Well, was the Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is a weird one.
Yeah,
That was
there's a couple that
not
are
to
strange.
be part of my, it was the riots one where Caesar that was just
Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
yeah, I thought that was bad.
Yeah, that was Battle for the Planet.
Jeff
of the
and
Apes.
John both are like woohoo. So I think this will be.
I
coming
agree,
up.
and I agree.
Maybe
These are
December?
the originals are still far better than any of the remake ones.
Hey, Roddy McDowell.
Yeah,
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
love them. Gotta love them. All right, guys. Thank you everybody for joining. Hope everybody let us know what you think about this new format. And if you're interested in, I'll put it back up. Interested in our new logo, please feel free. Again, every little bit helps. We don't make a ton of money on this. I lose more money on this show than I make. Believe me, folks. So
We
it's not like
pay to put this show
I'm
on.
not. Yeah,
In many
I'm
ways.
not relaxing and buying sports cars and everything else on what I
Yeah.
make from these.
We're paying for the Zoom. Actually, no. Now we're not.
barely
Now we're
pays-
paying for StreamYard.
Now we're paying for a different one, which is even more expensive. So anyway, I just think it's really cool. I don't care. It's not about making any money. I just love
No,
the
it's not about
story.
making money.
Looks great.
So, again,
Jeff,
thank
I
you,
love
Jeff.
it.
Thank you, Jeff,
Thank
again.
you,
And
Jeff. Rubel,
send me
thank you.
your
Thank you.
sweatshirt size and color that you would like, and I will ship one out to you. And of course, your address.
And I love your little spindrift.
So, all right, everybody. Good night. Live long and prosper. We'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're always welcome, Dennis, and as well. And
Thanks
you
for not making me kill Dennis.
Good night.